Hi everybody, so this is my first video for the Round Rock Doula. I've been a doula for 10 years, working mostly in the Round Rock, Texas area, but also in Austin, Texas, and all those little cute places that are above Round Rock and adjacent. So I wanted to come to you today to talk about my top books that I think every, not only new mother, but every new family should at least glance around. And if you're a big reader, read them all. You will benefit from it. But even if you're not a big reader who just devours every book put in front of you, it's worth your while to kind of take a glance at some of these. And I'm going to start with my number one, most important book that anyone who's having a baby should get a copy of this book. Okay, no, it's backwards here. But what it is The Thinking Woman's Guide to a Better Birth by Henci Goer, H-E-N-C-I-G-O-E-R. Okay, this book is your best friend because unlike pretty much every other book I'm going to show you, or every other book that's really been written about childbirth and new parenthood, all that sort of stuff, it's not an opinion. This book, the first half of it is summary of a whole bunch of different evidence-based studies that have been done. So you can find out scientifically what is the truth and history of an epidural, what is the truth and history of gestation, like who decided that babies are due at 40 weeks as opposed to 42 weeks or 38 weeks, you know. You can find out all of it in this book. And the second half of the book are the actual studies, which are a bit dry because it's scientific studies. But if you are the sort of person who really wants to go in and know about it, this is the book for you. I've probably read this book 5 or 6 times. It's that good. Every time I go back, it's full of underlining. Every time I go back, there's something else to take in that's useful. That's all of the different drugs, you know, different ways to induce labor, rupturing membranes, oxytocin, rupturing membranes plus oxytocin. And I find it pretty easy to understand, even if you aren't, you know, a doula or a medical professional. It's pretty approachable, the first section of the book. It's basically set up in a what is it, pros, cons. So if you literally don't get any other book on my video, at least check this one out from the library and look through it. If you're trying to make a birth plan, if you're trying to figure out what do I even want at my birth and what do I not want, here you go. You're welcome. Okay, so the second book I would suggest, Gentle Birth, Gentle Mothering. Okay, this book is actually written by an MD, Sarah J. Buckley, MD, and the foreword's by Ida Mae Gaskin, which if you're a fan of natural birth, you probably know who she is. She's amazing. But this book, it is a lot more medical than the other books I will suggest because it's written by an MD. She uses some of that kind of high up there language. But what this book gives you that I think is amazing is it really goes into how all of the, you can see my dog on the bed, how all of the chemicals in your body are behaving to start labor, and how that kind of progresses through labor, delivery, and postpartum. So when certain things are happening or you're feeling certain ways, you can not only understand why you're feeling that way, but also what can you do about it? Can you kind of find some comfort? Can we help things along? It talks a lot about how to kind of style your birthing room so that labor will continue to progress. You know, like very bright lights have a tendency to trigger adrenaline, which blocks oxytocin, which will slow down your labor. So, you know, having a plan ahead of time to keep the lights dim, all that sort of thing, like this book can really help you feel quite comfortable understanding what's happening in your body as you prepare to have a baby, as you have a baby, and right afterwards, those 3 months afterwards, like, why am I suddenly so sad for no reason? Or why do I want to cry every time my baby latches? Or why do I feel euphoric every time my baby latches? You know, this is a really great one for that. If you're thinking of hiring a doula, this is a good book. You know, if you're like, oh, you've heard your friends talking about doulas, maybe your doctors mention them, but you're not exactly sold on spending extra money when you already have a baby on the way, and you want to know, like, why? What exactly am I paying for? What exactly am I going to get? This is a great book for that. It's not very long. It has a lot of information in here, but you don't have to read all of it to get the benefit of what it's trying to tell you. It's going to talk about your support team, finding a doula for a medicated birth, some of the myths about, like, just opened one right here. Myth: a doula will make me feel guilty if I chicken out and choose to use medication. Utter myth. And it goes into, you know, why doulas, we don't have a agenda for your birth. It's your birth. We want your birth to go the way you want it to go. If that means you want a planned C-section, we want you to have the best planned C-section however you define best. Okay, if you want a natural birth in the woods next to a baby deer, we want you to have that too. Whatever you want to have as the mother, as the family, as the person who are creating this human, that's what a good doula wants you to have. If you want to know about all the other stuff a great doula can do, The Doula Advantage by Rachel. I can't pronounce her last name. But Rachel, R-A-C-H-E-L, and her last name is Gurevich. Gurevich, something like that. Okay, I know it's still backwards, but you get the point. Okay, so the next book that I would super suggest is basically a childbirth class in a book, and it doesn't go super into the technical stuff, you know, but if you've read this book, you don't really need to go that much further. If you want to know how the baby moves through the pelvis, YouTube, and will tell you everything you need to know. Okay, but this book, Birthing from Within, man, it's been in the top 10 best-selling childbirth books for like forever, for good reason, by Pam England and Robert Horowitz. This book will kind of change the way you look at birth. It is very natural-minded, so if that's just something you're not interested in at all, you can still look into this book. You know, it does a lot of birth art and kind of like getting to the bottom of how you feel about birth, what your bias is towards birth, you know, maybe some fears that you didn't know were kind of hanging out, rattling around in there. And how do you feel about parenthood? You know, like, did you have a strained relationship with your parent that you're afraid that you're going to impose on your child? All of these sorts of things, like, this book can help you work through this very gently. I like it very gently. It's not a very, like, in your face, you have stuff you need to deal with. It's not that kind of book. But it will help you kind of look at those things and make sure that you're approaching birth with a really great mindset so that you can have the birth experience that you're hoping for, and you can have the postpartum experience that you're hoping for. And so that you and your partner are on the same page, because I find that sometimes partners, they don't want to go read a whole bunch of books, or if they do, they can sometimes get a little pushy about how they think things are supposed to go, because they care, they're trying to help you out, you know. But I think that this book, it really goes into how to be supportive of one another, of the father, of the mother, of how you're becoming a family unit. And as natural as it isn't always without any bumps in the road as you figure out, what is my role as a mother? What is my role as a father? What does that look like for my family, for me? Not what does it look like in the media, or what did it look like for my parents or their parents, but what does it look like for us and our family? So this book can help you a lot with that, and it's quite fun. It has a lot of stuff for siblings too, if you have older kids who are, either they're unsure about having a new sibling, or they're so excited and they want to be involved. It has a whole lot of things for brothers and sisters to do with mom, with dad, with the new baby. It's a great book. I highly recommend it. So, honestly, I would recommend anything written by Ina May if you want a natural birth. Okay, she's definitely biased, going towards, no drugs, definitely a lot more kind of being in the rhythm with your body, kind of working with birth as a natural thing. So if you are more medically minded, Ina May not be as much your speed. But I do love her. I had 4 home births, so that's kind of what I picked for myself that worked for me. So this is her breastfeeding book, and I really love it because it has so many stories of other mothers going through their own breastfeeding journeys, the really smooth, simple journeys and the ones that are not so smooth, and kind of seeing that you're not alone in your journey in breastfeeding, whether you breastfeed for 2 weeks or 2 years or 5 years or whatever works for you. But it has a lot about the chemicals that are going on in your body when you're breastfeeding. Some kind of breastfeeding hacks, like how to unclog a clogged milk duct and how to tell if it is a clogged milk duct versus mastitis, So if you're going to breastfeed and you're not real sure about it, or you just want more information on it, you've already done it a couple times, this is a great book. It's a wonderful resource for any new mother who's hoping to breastfeed. So I highly recommend it. This last book is this second to last book is really for if you're looking to have a home birth. You've decided that the hospital route isn't for you personally, and you're gonna have a baby at home, or you're just really wanting a natural birth in any setting, whether it's at home, birth center, hospital, whatever. It's another Ina May book. This is the book, literally the book, that made me want to be a doula and a midwife. Right here. So basically what Spiritual Midwifery by Ina May Gaskin, INAMAYGASKIN. Basically what this is about is it's almost a memoir of hers told through birth stories that take place in the 60s and 70s during that kind of hippie movement. And they're all living on a farm. Some of them take place in a bus of very natural childbirth, like in some of the cases, like they're not happy. So like, trigger warning, when you're going into this book, there is infant loss, there is mother loss. Like, this book is a journey. Okay, it's not like the others I've suggested. This is one of those books that can kind of just either make you feel like, oh, this is not for me, this is way too much, or be like, oh my gosh, like birth is this. I didn't even know birth was this. So if you want to go real deep, Spiritual Midwifery by Ina May Gaskin has some pretty cool, pictures in here too. Here's some good ones. It's just that kind of, I feel like, sums up the vibe of the book. It's so beautiful about, all these sweet little hippies giving birth on a farm. I just love it. And the farm is still there. You can go visit it. You can take classes there. It's fantastic. The last book you might not think would be on here, but it is actually Marie Kondo's book, The KonMari Method, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, the Japanese Art of Decluttering and Organizing. This is more for postpartum, and it actually has very little to do with cleaning your house, to be honest, for me anyway. You can use it to help clean your house, especially during that nesting time. Like, does this spark joy in me? But I think it translates to something larger than that, that you're about to have a baby. That's a whole different lifestyle. It's a very different lifestyle than what you may have been used to before. Even if it's your second or third or fourth or fifth or whatever baby, like, everything changes after you have a baby. And this book helped me as a mother of 5 to prioritize what was important to me and where I was going to put my focus after I had the baby and as my babies got bigger. And the whole kind of, the way she talks about spark joy, it doesn't just apply to cleaning. And it does help. My house is so much easier to clean now that I did her method. I probably spend an hour a week cleaning. So there is that. That's useful. I have 7 people in my house. I spend an hour a week cleaning. That's pretty good. But that's literally not even the most valuable thing that comes from this book. Like, it helped me look at where I was putting my time and where I was putting my focus and the people I was spending time on, that maybe I would rather be hanging out with my kid, or maybe I wouldn't. Maybe I would rather be spending time with this girlfriend over here who I hadn't been making time for. So, or what about my husband? What about him? When do I spend time on him? And what about me? When do I spend time on me? And do the things that I have around me make me happy, or are they what I think I deserve? And am I putting enough worth on myself? Is this really what I deserve, or am I acting like I deserve less because I've been socially conditioned to think that? So this book is great for you even if you're not having a baby, but I do think it's a great way to maybe get the jump on baby blues, postpartum depression, all that stuff. It's definitely harder to be happy in a dirty house, because you just look around and you're like, oh my God, I have so many things I have to do, and I have to sit here and nurse my baby for 3 hours and stare at all this stuff I don't want. Why do I even have this stuff? So it's a great one to think about if you're expecting in the near future. Those are my books, the top ones that I think that any new parent, new family, I think they're just as useful for dad, for grandma, for aunties, for uncles, for siblings, if they're old enough to read, to go through, because as many people as you have, you know, in your support system, and they are all rooting for you to have this experience that you want and helping you to, you know, make that a reality, the better. If one of those people you want in your corner is a doula, you're free to check out my website, www.roundrockdoula.com. I only take families in the Round Rock, Texas area. So mostly I just want to get this information out there to moms and families who are having a new family and they feel a little confused, don't really know what they're doing. This is a great place to start. So check back on my channel. I'm going to be doing a video once, twice a week. I hope to see you here again. Bye. Have a great day.